Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bikum. And welcome to the Hajj program here on Salam Media. My name is Faisal Patel. It is the eve of Arafah. It's a lot of excitement, a lot of jubilation for the Hujjaj as they make their way to Arafah. Some will be going tomorrow morning, some are going this evening, some are even walking. And one of the people that has been prominent in reporting on Hajj and every aspect of it, from making his tawaf for Umrah to visiting the Kiswa factory and sharing phenomenal pictures from the holy lands of Makkatul Mukarramah and Medina, is Yusuf Abramjee. He's attending Hajj this year, Hajj 1444, Hajj 2023, as a guest of King Salman bin Abdul Aziz Al Saud and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman Abdul Aziz Al Saud. Yusuf, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Brother Faisal, and I'm talking to you on a bus making our way from Mecca to the plains of Arafat, a few kilometers away. I hope the connectivity will hold, inshallah.
Inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's permission, it will hold. Yusuf, I see you looking a lot of noor with the ihram on, and alhamdulillah, your trip so far fruitful and spiritual.
Alhamdulillah, very spiritually fulfilling, very, very enjoyable. And we came at the invitation together with a group of 20 fellow Hujjaj from South Africa as a guest of the Custodian of the Two Holy Mosques. And Alhamdulillah, we received a very warm welcome and a lot of excitement. Many on the group are first-time Hajj goers. You remember I was here in 2016. You were in Hajj on one or two occasions. And you know the excitement on the eve of Hajj, the day before the day of Arafat. In fact, we just passed the tent city of Mina, where you can see hundreds of thousands of people lined up and they've converged in that area. And they'll also be making their way overnight and after Fajr tomorrow, also inshallah to the plains of Arafat for the most important day of the Hajj.
Yusuf, one of the aspects of being a guest of the king is that you don't go from Azizia or Makkah to Mina, but you go straight to Arafah. Are there a lot of people that are doing that? A lot of people walking from your view, what you can see on the bus, to the plains of Arafah. A lot of people will leave tomorrow morning, but some people do the walking Hajj and they leave at night. What's the atmosphere like? Are there a lot of people walking?
No, in fact, as we drive towards the plains of Arafat, we don't see anyone walking. There's a lot of checkpoints along the road, and I think the majority of people will be allowed only to enter the plains of Arafat possibly tomorrow morning or overnight after midnight. So at this stage, it's only a few designated buses that are entering the Arafat area. But you can imagine, come tomorrow morning or in the early hours of the morning, you'll find thousands of people walking from Mina to Arafat. And remember, the most important part of Arafat is after Zohar, right up to Maghrib. So in the scorching heat, it's quite a walk, as you would imagine. You know the distance, Brother Faisal. And in the scorching heat, it could be quite a challenge for especially people that have health issues to walk those few kilometers in this heat.
Yusuf, one of the aspects of Hajj, I mean, I went last year, as you rightly mentioned, and I was a guest of the king a few years back. And, that time was during the pandemic last year. We were only 1,000 South Africans and 1 million pilgrims worldwide. This year has been touted as the biggest Hajj. Logistically, I'm sure the Saudis have been doing a phenomenal job. Were there any problems or has everything run smoothly?
Alhamdulillah, we had absolutely no problems. Everything running smoothly, very warm, hospitable welcome, very well organized, and they really have a good operation that has been running. Overall, for all the other Hujjaj as well. I spoke to a number of South African pilgrims who are stationed in Mina, who were in Azizia, and Alhamdulillah, with maybe one or two minor issues, there's been no major issue for the Hujjaj overall as well. We know that there are 3,500 South African pilgrims undertaking the Hajj this year. You're correct, the biggest Hajj ever. But I think with the modernization, with all the security forces, the emergency services, the medical support, they seem to have really prepared for this Hajj, Brother Faisal.
One of the other aspects, and you mentioned it earlier in an interview, was with regards to the heat. When I was there in Mecca last year, I mean, we were looking at about 44, 45 degrees. Is there any forecast for rain? Normally, they say that on the plains of Arafah, when I was there, that one year it rained. This is the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any forecast for rain tomorrow, inshallah?
At this stage, there's no indications of rain, although we got a message to say if there is rain, stay away from rivers and low flooding areas. But absolutely no sign of rain. I must say there was a bit of wind and a bit of a dust storm earlier, but nothing major. At this stage, the heat is the biggest issue. The prediction for tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, is in the region of about 44, 45 degrees. That's without the humidity level. So it's very, very warm. And as you know, they have the water sprays in many areas around the various sites. And we are about to enter Arafat within the next few minutes. And Alhamdulillah, at this time of the evening, the traffic seems to be flowing quite well. So inshallah, we should be there within the next few minutes and take up camp and be ready for the biggest day of Hajj and the biggest day of the year.
Final question, Brother Yusuf. One of the things that I grappled with last year was a plethora of messages that people shared on social media, on WhatsApp. I mean, we know South Africa's quota is 2,500. As a courtesy, we got 1,000 extra this year, 3,500. Speaking to Shaheen Esop and Muaz Kasu, we got about a 22,000 waiting list. You're looking at about plus minus 8 to 10 years. Do you think, inshallah, that we will see a possible increase in the quota? And then maybe you can just share one message of motivation, given that yourself and myself have been on Hajj before, we know what the experience is like, but there are others that the desire is burning in them to be there. How can you motivate them? What can you say to motivate them to keep the beauty and the inspiration alive?
We know that many Hujjaj haven't had many Muslims in the world haven't had the opportunity to come to this holy place to undertake one of the 5 pillars of our religion. We know that many other countries, including the United Kingdom, now have a quota system in place. Alhamdulillah, our quota was increased by 1,000. And also, when President Cyril Ramaphosa visited the kingdom earlier this year, he appealed to the king for an increase in the quota. Inshallah, we might see an increase next year. Originally, you might remember years ago we won 5,000 or 6,000, but that number has come down. But with normality returning, almost complete normality, I'm confident that inshallah next year we might see an increase. And who knows, if it's 5,000 plus, it will be alhamdulillah give an opportunity to people that haven't been on Hajj to come to this holy land and perform one of the furthers if you can afford it. In terms of my Hajj, like I always say, is 3 golden rules. Rule number 1, in no particular order, is be patient. Rule number 2, in no particular order, is be patient. And rule number 3, in no particular order, is be patient. Help others during the Hajj. Go with the flow, follow the instructions, and Allah, you'll have a very, very enjoyable and spiritually uplifting Hajj, inshallah.
Yusuf, on behalf of myself, Salam Media, and the entire Muslim population of South Africa and across the world, I want to take this opportunity to wish you and all the Hujjaj a Hajj Mabrur and Hajj Mabruk, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your efforts. You've been phenomenal in the kingdom. We know that Hajj is Arafah. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Hajjatul Arafah. Please do make dua for the Ummah and for the South African, inshallah, that more of them, inshallah, can embark on this beautiful journey and journey of spiritual ecstasy.
Ameen, Ameen. May Allah accept your du'as, and we request du'as from people from across our country. And please remember us in your du'as. Thank you for the well wishes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, so that was Yusuf Abramjee. He's on the bus from Makkatul Mukarramah on the way to the plains of Arafah. Now, I don't want to go into the technical details of the Hajj as a guest of the king. I was on that particular program a few years back, and unlike the normal Hujjaj who would go from their hotels in Azizia to Mina, the guests of the king go from their hotels straight to Arafah, and then from there they will go to Muzdalifah to pick up the pebbles and then go pelt as well. But obviously it depends on the different madhabs, and I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to go into the technical details. And like Yusuf explaining that it's been a beautiful journey. The I mean, I've been on the journey before with the king, and I can tell you they pull out all stops. I mean, they just uh, you know accommodate you in every way they can. And I think this year 20 people that have been selected by the king to actually embark on this beautiful journey. And Arafah, I mean, that's what we are speaking about this evening, the eve of Arafah. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, as I mentioned earlier, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Hajjatul Arafah, Hajj is Arafah. And that's when dua is accepted. Now, we're going to be speaking a lot about Arafah and what does it mean? I mean, I've been on a few Hajj. I don't want to specify the number. It's more than about 2 times, and each time has been a unique and different experience altogether. Even now, I mean, while there's so many South Africans that go, I'm envious in a very very good way. While so many are there, and no doubt you would have the same. Longing and craving in your heart to be where those who judge are. And the reason I'm saying this is last year when I was on Hajj, and I explained to Yusuf that I was overwhelmed and burdened in a good way with a lot of messages on WhatsApp, on Facebook, on Instagram, and many other platforms say, Brother Faisal, please make dua for me that I can be the fortunate ones. I think the most important thing that we need to understand, and if you are tuned in this evening, you need to understand that the most important thing is for you to make that niyyah, right? Make the niyyah. Say, oh Allah, please, I ask you to allow me to go on the search. Make the niyyah. And then the second thing, put your name onto that list for Sauk. Now, when I spoke to Shaheen Esop and Muaz Kasu from Sauk, the list has grown to 22,000 people. Right, that is a lot. 22,000 people. Now, if you take that and you divide it by, say, 2,500, which is your base quota, and inshallah, they normally give us 1,000 like they did this year. If you divide it by 3,500, you're looking at anywhere between an 8 and 10 years to go for Hajj. I mean, it is a long time. But I was telling my wife this week that there's actually a good and a bad thing to that as well. The good thing is that, you know, you got 8 to 10 years, right? But it gives you enough time to save up money to go for Hajj. So if you make your niyyah today and if you put your name on the list when Sauk opens the accreditation list, right, it gives you 8 to 10 years to save up money. So if you put away a certain amount of money every month and then you account for inflation and price increases and everything, inshallah, the time 8 to 10 years come, inshallah, maybe it even comes sooner that you get your calling like the 1,000. I know a few people. Actually, a friend of mine who was telling me last week that a lady, a friend of his, was actually called up as part of the 1,000, and she never had money, and she sold her car, and so she and her husband could go. So Allah makes it possible. So get your name onto that list. At the time 8 years come, inshallah, you will be accepted. Let's face it, right? Hajj is expensive. Right, the time I went with my wife, we took a bit of a sort of a more better package, or more sort of luxurious package, you want to call it that. I don't think that's the right word for the sake of it, but just to give you an idea that we want our own room in Azizia and special services and different hotels. That time it cost us 120,000 rand, right? Now it's costing 120,000 rand per person for 6 weeks. If you only go for like 2 weeks, it costs you around 50,000 rand, but it's still a lot of money. There's also price increases in taxi fares. The real has we strengthened against the South African rand. When I went, it was 2 reals, 2 rand to 1 Saudi real, and now it's actually 450, or I think even more. So make that near, inshallah, and then we can also be in the position. You can also be in the position next year, this time, inshallah, where you make your way from Mina tomorrow morning after Fajr to the plains of Arafah. And I can tell you one thing there: being on the plains of Arafah is just something that can never be described. I've been on Hajj a few times, and every time I've been on Arafah, it's just been a complete different experience altogether. Fortunately, we did have rain, I think about two times the time I went. Last year we didn't get rain, but there is sort of sayings that, if it rains on Arafah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy descends upon the plains of Arafah. So, dear brothers and sisters, listeners, inshallah, I urge you, I invoke you, make your intention, inshallah, and inshallah, you will get that opportunity to be in the enviable position of Yusuf Abramjee and all the 3,500 South Africans, and possibly even a guest of the king or the guest of the embassy, inshallah. Let's go for a quick break. After the break, inshallah, we will be right back.